Welcome to the fourth part of this series. Come on, stay strong. He looks at the stage, his sword in hand, surrounded by hundreds of fallen bodies, while wondering if the Clantang really has such a devastating technique, suitable for large-scale massacres. And that is exactly what Yamong has just shown. The rabbit, confused and nervous, thinks to himself that if Yamong continues to grow like this, he will surely surpass him. Watch the full video to see the rabbit being defeated, while he questions if he really needs to eliminate a prodigy like Yamong. With a quick movement, Yamong draws his sword, leaving the rabbit stunned. With a perplexed look, the rabbit asks what Yamong is doing, trying to guess if he plans to face him with his sword. Yamong, calm, points the blade in his direction, ready to roast him. The rabbit, once again, does not know what to think. His confused mind makes him doubt his own perception, thinking that Yamong does not understand his position, but the reality is quite different. Rabbit believes that Yamong is now in a position where his strongest technique will not be enough. But Yamong cuts him off and says, directly, that the rabbit's hidden weapon skills are nothing but cheap tricks compared to his sword. The rabbit, with a trollish smile, responds with false seriousness, saying that he would like to learn something from Yamong, the sword god. The rabbit sighs, saying that Yamong is being extremely audacious. But, strangely enough, he begins to respect the young man's spirit and lets him make the first move. Yamong smiles at the scene, while Snake watches and asks Yamong if he's really going to go all out. Yamong confidently replies that since his opponent is a master of the Fire Kingdom, he will give it his best shot. The pressure in the air increases, and suddenly, tremors begin to shake the arena, as Yamong releases his seals, releasing an energy so powerful that it lights up the place. A strong wind scatters the shards, and everyone, including the ants and the rabbit, is stunned by the power that Yamong emanates. The rabbit, surprised, finds it impossible for a human to have so much internal energy. The most terrifying thing is that he didn't realize how much Yamanga was hiding. Unlike the ants, he recognizes that Yamong is beyond his level. When Yamong transforms into a super ion, he stares at the rabbit and says, "I'm ready for the lesson." The rabbit, astonished, can't believe that Yamong has reached such a high level at such a young age. His presence is so intense that the rabbit compares it to lizards. And Mang, staring at the rabbit, asks what he's waiting for. Since Yamong made the first move, the rabbit, now in a difficult position, recognizes that he dug his own grave. He admits that he didn't know about Yamong's hidden strength, but he can't back down, because Yamong's life is at stake. However, he knows that if he uses all his power, one of them will surely die. He can't accept that. With a sincere expression, the rabbit admits that if the battle drags on, he will end up losing. He decides to end the fight quickly with the technique Lizard taught him. In a flashback, we see the rabbit reaching the fire realm, his body reacting to the energy flow. Lizard congratulates him for breaking the limits of his talent. Although his aging has been reversed, the scars on his face still remain. The rabbit admits that his skills are still not enough, but he is proud of what he has achieved, believing that his rough appearance has become more masculine. Lizard laughs, remembering the rabbit's effort to look fierce, and says that, rather than mocking him, he is merely guiding him to a new realm. The rabbit's transformation, both physical and mental, was impressive. Therefore, the sword techniques he used were limited. Now that he has become stronger, Lizard teaches him the strong sword technique, which according to him, can only be mastered with true softness that controls strength. Flexibility, says Lizard, is the key to unleashing the true power of the strong sword. Rabbit now has a new skill in his hands, but what it truly means, he does not yet know. Watching Rabbit perform his technique, Yamong is shocked, but soon prepares to use his technique. All roads lead to a sword. Rabbit, who has only recently begun to master this skill, has not yet perfected it completely. He plans to end the fight with a single blow. Yamong, impressed, comments that he thought Rabbit would use the sort of chaotic illusion, his most familiar technique, and did not expect him to be able to perform even a rudimentary version of the strong sword. Rabbit, surprised and nervous, asks how Yamong knows about this technique. Rabbit's sword begins to glow, but he is even more surprised, as he has not fully mastered the strong sword. However, Yamong is using a perfectly executed version of this technique, as an intense blue energy begins to emanate from his body. In a flashback, we learn that fencing follows 7 fundamental principles: weight, speed, break, illusion, dispersion, separation, and precision. Each technique is based on the mastery of one of these principles. Yamong's master told him that among all these paths, mastery of strength is the rarest, because the human body cannot withstand the power of the sword technique itself. There is a more accessible path where flexibility can generate strength, but that is the choice of ordinary people. The path that Yamong is following comes from breaking to the extreme of deterioration, something known as supreme strength. Back in the present, Yamanga emanates a powerful energy as he reflects on how his body, now, is different from his past life. Even after so long without using the strong sword, he still remembers how to master it. Controlling his strength is a challenge, and Rabbit needs to be prepared for the impact. Rabbit, now in a desperate situation, listens to Yamong's reflections, while the spectators, even the most irrelevant ones, are shocked. Their only function there is to die or be surprised. Both advance towards each other, their swords wrapped in energy. The battle continues at full force. The elders, watching from afar, feel the powerful aura emanating from the confrontation. An old beggar believes that one of the 6 great masters is releasing his energy to inspire the young prodigies. However, Senior Tree thinks that this energy is exaggerated, since he can feel its intensity even from a distance. The beggar replies that it is none of their business what happens in the arena, since the assembly must last at least 10 days. Sri asks everyone to quiet their cups, as the energy continues to grow. Suddenly, an explosion of power is released, sending waves of energy into the sky. Somewhere in Sichuan, Lizard, relaxing alone, notices the intensity of the waves, and worries about what his brother is doing in the arena. Meanwhile, Rabbit, defeated in a single blow, drops his sword and spits blood. He bids farewell to life, but before dying, he still worries about Yoni's safety. Witnessing the scene, Bangs is left speechless. The people of the main clan rush to the arena, trying to understand what happened. They are shocked to see that Rabbit, known as the 9-ring sword, has been defeated while Yamong remains standing with his broken sword. Not quite understanding what happened, they ask Bangs for an explanation, who begins to scream, accusing the young head of the Tang family of having killed Rabbit. As more people arrive, the truth is revealed. The Tang clan was responsible for the annihilation of the Silent Sword sect and the Heaven and Earth sect. The biggest shock, however, is to see that Yamong, despite his youthful appearance, managed to defeat one of the 6 great masters. Bish, in a fit of madness, screams that Rabbit died trying to protect Yoni. He threatens that if they do not avenge his death or protect Yoni, the leader will become seriously angry. Bish's words make everyone tense. Psycho Banks orders them to kill the young chief immediately. Everyone rushes towards Yamong, fearing for their lives. One of them comments that since Yamong has defeated the Sword of 9 Rings, it will not be easy to defeat him. As thousands attack, Yamong puts away his sword and tells Rabbit in his mind that if it were not for Bang's tricks, this fight would have been different. Although Rabbit was a formidable opponent, the difference in power had already decided the outcome. Even so, Yamong honors Rabbit's death. Archad, watching, takes up his sword and promises that, although he was his enemy, he will ensure that Rabbit's journey in the afterlife is worthy of a swordsman. Bangs, stirring up his group, warns that Yamong is still holding the rabbit. Sword Yamong then throws his sword into the air and uses his internal energy to shatter the bullet into shards. The attackers are hit by the sword fragments. A lady tells Yamong that he is using cheap tricks, believing that he can stop 2,000 enemies with sword fragments. However, they are the ones using cheap tricks, attacking in a group against a single opponent. And the manga notes that to deal with ants of this size, not even tiny fragments are necessary. With a swift movement, he cuts one of them in half, turning these ants into pieces as easy to manipulate as chopped vegetables. Using Yamong's internal energy, he is using a simplified version of the 10,000 flower rain technique. Surrounded by a tornado of sword fragments, the dead tree and Moran's Einstein panic, recognizing that this must be a secret technique of the Tang family. As the attack progresses and bodies are thrown everywhere, someone mentions that the technique is the famous rain of 10,000 flowers. Face, upon hearing this, cannot believe that a long-lost technique has resurfaced. Snake intervenes, explaining to Yamong that they are being foolish, thinking that this is the real rain of 10,000 heavenly flowers, since they have never actually seen it. Yamong calls for Murian. Archad warns her that he will prevent anyone from approaching, but if anyone escapes, she will have to deal with it. Murian, sweating nervously, tells Yamong that she must take his place as bodyguard, assuring him that she will not be a hindrance. But then he taunts Yamong, telling him to send his enemies straight to hell. Our savage responds with a smile, saying that was exactly what he would do. He intensifies the attack, making the blades transform into a sea of steel, which destroys the enemies with the same ease with which one cuts vegetables. With an overwhelming number of opponents, Yamong begins to attack with his bare hands, and Albert Einstein is cut in half like everyone else. Amidst the chaos, some notice that Murian and his aide are wearing Tang family clothes. Unable to face them alone, they plan to capture Yamong and hand him over to the leader of the sect. Murian, in panic, recalls a flashback where Yamong offers to cure his dead vein syndrome, explains that the soul energies are blocking her meridians, and Murian becomes nervous, thinking that she will have to strip like her sister. But Yamong quickly reassures her, saying that this will not be necessary. The explanation is that Murian, even with dead vein syndrome, possessed an extraordinary talent in martial arts, as strong as the Bounty Hunter Brigade. If her meridians are unblocked, she will reach the power of a clan elder, capable of massacring anyone in seconds. They are amazed to see that even the weakest can be extremely strong. Yamong, who previously thought they were just children, now sees that they are more powerful than many clan leaders. Murian asks Yamgiam to stay behind her, as it is difficult to protect someone while fighting. Hearing this, Yamgiam begins to cry, feeling useless for having neglected her training. She finds herself unable to help as Murian continues to decimate the enemies. Faye observes that the wind pressure generated by Yamong needs to be reduced, because no matter how strong he is, there is a limit to his internal energy. Even with the damage received, they continue to advance, trying to overwhelm him. When Yamong sees their determination, he is surprised, as the enemies are sacrificing themselves without hesitation. With the help of a few thousand, they manage to weaken the wind pressure. Yamong, thinking to himself, imagines that their leader must be someone very powerful to inspire such loyalty. But, now not being the right time for reflections, Yamong imposes his sword and, with a few moves, eliminates more than 1,000 enemies around him. Bangs can't believe what he's seeing, and Mang slaughters thousands with just one blow. She then understands that numbers mean nothing to him. She orders everyone to retreat, saying that no matter how hard they try, they can't defeat him and that they should save themselves. She apologizes to Yoni, and promises to pay for her sins one day. Then, addressing Yamong, she admits that it's enough. Not even 1,000 lives would be enough to stop him. To kill her, he'll need the help of the sect leader, although she doesn't want to see him die. With no more options, his eyes begin to glow, and Mang, intrigued, observes the situation while using the Infernal Lotus technique on the little girl, who begins to burn in front of everyone. The scene is marked by despair. No one will make it out alive when the cult leader arrives. She says she'll be waiting for them in the afterlife. The video is honestly absurd, and Mang could have finished her off quickly with a poison needle. But instead, he's killing her in a cruel way. That rabid dog went crazy, burning the girl, while the secondary characters are shocked, wondering if she really doesn't understand the consequences. She cries, saying that if it's for the white gorilla, she'll do anything. This one-sided and obsessive love of hers is starting to get annoying. The hypocrite laments her lack of power and says it's a shame she can't do more. Taking a knife out of her dress, she expresses her desire to witness Ioni's death and tries to kill herself, believing that the Lord will seek revenge in her place. At that moment, Yamong runs up to her and cuts off both of her hands. He approaches the little girl, absorbs the fire she had released, and destroys it. He sternly reprimands her, saying that, in addition to harming innocents, she has tarnished Rabbit's honor and sacrifice. And the manga explains that Rabbit had to die, or else he himself would have been killed in a life-or-death duel. Turning to Hypocrite, Yamong looks at her with contempt and warns her that she will not find a peaceful death on the ground. However, he reflects that the decision of her death is not up to him, but rather to the Lord. The woman, filled with rage, replies that the Lord will never forgive him and that he will die by his hands that very day. Losing his patience, Yamong considers ripping her mouth off. But before he can act, a mysterious figure falls from the sky, releasing an energy so powerful that even Yamong is surprised. The rest of the characters stand still, as if time had stopped. The hypocrite starts screaming, but he ignores her. When he looks to the side, he finds Rabbit motionless, and soon after, his daughter burned and breathing with difficulty. His eyes begin to shine, and he becomes completely impassive without emotions. Yamong, observing, realizes that his subordinates are not fighting out of loyalty, but out of fear of his fury. The intensity of the murderous intent he releases is so great that even the secondary characters are static. He drops his weapon, wondering if Yamong is still human. For the first time, the idiot looks nervous, realizing that the girl will not be able to handle so much pressure and he will need to take the confrontation seriously. He ignores Yamong, walking past him as if he did not exist. Yamong thinks he is being ignored, but soon realizes that the man is heading towards his daughter, who can barely breathe. The hypocrite continues screaming, accusing Yamong of killing Rabbit and hurting his daughter, demanding that he listen to her and kill Yamong immediately. She talks too much. Ignoring her words, The man covers his daughter with his coat and begins to walk away. She continues screaming about revenge, but he only responds that all of that is useless. Angered, she screams more, but he remains silent. Then, Yamong loses his patience and throws her to the ground, ordering her to shut up, and threatening to rip out her tongue if she continues. Yamong, surprised, sees the situation getting out of control. The initial plan was to kill the heir and divert attention to himself while the sect together fought against Mickey's cult. But now, everything has turned into a personal vendetta. As he puts a collar on the dog, the situation has gone beyond justifiable. Muriel asks Yamong if he will go after the Lord. Yamong replies that he needs to go, as the Tang family may be in danger. Muriel tries to dissuade him, warning that the Lord is so powerful that he even overcame the celestial pervert. Yamong, however, claims that he is not going there to fight, but if the Lord still has any sense of reason, he will not kill someone who came to talk. Muriel questions what will happen if there is a fight. Yamong clenches his fist and says that he will risk his life if it threatens the main family. It is worth remembering that Yamong is no longer as strong as he was in his past life. In the main hall of the Alliance, the doctor informs the Lord that they did everything to save his daughter. But the flames have penetrated deep into his body and cannot be removed due to his fragile constitution. The Lord is shocked, remembering moments with Rabbit and his daughter. The scene then flashes back to when the lizard was young, holding Niddy. The former leader of the Alliance, in his last moments, asked the lizard to take care of Ione as if she were his own daughter. Since then, something inside him has changed, and to overcome the pain of loss, he has become stronger, believing that if he were invincible, no one close to him would lose their lives. He led his brothers to the Kingdom of Fire, earning the loyalty of power-hungry martial artists and forming a powerful army. But it was all in vain, as fate still struck him in places he could not reach. Now, the Lord feels the pain his daughter felt when she saw her broken straw doll. The pain of grief makes him think he could tear the sky apart. Transformed, unable to control his rage, his hands tremble and he finds everything around him meaningless. But despite this, he will not make the same mistakes. And now, his only obsession is to eradicate any threat to his people. He may be an Amoya dragon, but this is only the beginning. As Yamong dragged the rabid dog that was infected with rabies, Yamong calmly walked with his crippled dog. At that moment, Snake appears and enigmatically asks Yamong if he knew that dragons were real. Surprised, Yamong questions Snake, thinking he was referring to some mistake since dragons, according to what he knew, were just mythical creatures or nicknames given to prodigies in the martial world. Snake, with a serious expression, corrects Yamong, stating that he is not talking about myths or human nicknames, but about a real species, the dragons. Confused, Mang asks what Snake means by that. Snake then reveals something surprising. The leader of the Black Death Alliance is not human, but a dragon. Snake's appearance changes, becoming more majestic and even a little insane. Yamong, perplexed, makes an expression similar to Murius and asks for more explanations. Snake begins to tell. Dragons are not born in their complete form. They emerge when the energy of heaven and earth merge, initially taking the form of a human child. Throughout their lives, these children go through experiences that transform them into true dragons. Most adult dragons sleep for hundreds of years, but when they awaken, they wreak havoc. They are so powerful that they can destroy nations with a single blast of energy. And Mang, hearing all this, questions Snake about the proof he has that the leader of the Alliance is a dragon, suggesting that it may be just speculation due to the overwhelming presence of the leader. Snake, tired, responds sarcastically, asking if Yamong is so deluded as to deny the existence of dragons, being a supernatural being himself. Snake reminds Yamong of when he served the Tang family as a familiar, and questions would make Yamong think that the ancestor kept him around. Humans, according to Snake, cannot distinguish a dragon, as its energy is completely different. But, since Snake is a supernatural being, he can sense this energy. That was why the ancestor made Snake his familiar, and together they hunted dragons that posed a threat to the world. Is surprised to hear about the dragon hunts. He begins to think about the ancestor's strength, capable of hunting such powerful beings. He also questions his own skill with the sword, imagining that, if he used his skills from his past life, he would be able to defeat anyone. Even a dragon. Curious, Yamong asks Snake if the fact that they are dragons means that they must be killed. Snake responds, stating that not all dragons are evil. A rare story about the blue dragon, a dragon that became good. Originally, the mission to stop the evil dragons was the blue dragons. But the ancestor, unaware of this, killed the blue dragon, believing that all dragons were evil. This caused much conflict, as hunters who worked with the blue dragon opposed the ancestor. Eventually, the ancestor realized his mistake and began hunting only evil dragons. Yamong begins to understand the complexity of the situation, but Snake, in an arrogant tone, explains that this happened before he was Yamong's partner. He reveals that the real point of the conversation is that dragons are not born knowing that they are dragons. They live among humans, forming bonds and living their lives. If they are influenced positively, they can become good dragons, like the blue dragon. However, if they are overcome by negative emotions, they can become evil dragons. Yamong, worried, asks if the leader of the Death Alliance is about to become an evil dragon, since he lost his sworn brother and his daughter. Snake confirms his fears, saying that the leader is already on the verge of this transformation. At that moment, a voice catches the lizard's attention. An attendant enters and says that the young lord of the Tang family wishes to meet him. Irritated, Snake destroys his chair, but with an impassive tone, agrees to hear what the attendant has to say. Yamong enters the room with a firm expression, and Snake, mockingly, comments that he entered the lion's den in search of answers. Yamong, confused, asks if the leader of the Alliance of Death is not human, but a dragon. He begins to express his regret for what happened at the Sichuan assembly, explaining that the rabid dog kidnapped the leader's daughter and used her to blackmail the 9 rings into a deadly standoff, forcing him to act. Before Yamong can finish his explanation, Snake, using his key, pulls the rabid dog from Yamong's hand and holds it by the neck as it coughs up blood. The lizard notices that she seems calm as the woman tries to explain her story. He then cuts out her tongue to silence her. With a cold look, he asks why she is so afraid, saying that her daughter must have been terrified before she died, unable to say a word. Using the same technique she had used, he burns her, causing her to fall to the ground. "I'm not stupid," he says, would recognize the traces of flames on her body. "You are the reason I lost my brother." He continues, explaining that the fire will not kill her immediately, but the pain will be twice as great as what her daughter suffered. Yamong is surprised to realize that he was able to figure all this out just by circumstance. Maybe he has a way to solve this. The man then reveals that, as the future lord of the Tang family, he has never destroyed the Tang family before because of his daughter. Despite her appearance, she suffered from an incurable disease that prevented her from practicing martial arts. Even the most potent medicine did not work, so he thought that the Tang family's poison might be the solution. He would use the poison, counterpoison, but now that his daughter is gone, there is no reason for the Tang family to exist anymore. And Mang tries to deflect, saying that this only proves that he is being manipulated. The man sighs and responds that, if he is being manipulated, it was Yamong who brought him here in order to avoid his wrath. The lizard finds it pathetic to think that he could get away with a few words. "It doesn't matter to me who is right or wrong." He says, "The death of my loved ones is directly linked to you, and I will not tolerate it. Everyone, including you and your family, will die until my anger is satisfied. This will not be a punishment for the Alliance, but a personal revenge starting with the Tang family." The young man then draws his sword, knowing that the fight is inevitable. Yamong, nervous, realizes that the entire Alliance, including the 6 Grandmasters, is heading towards the Tang family. "When I finish with our Chad," he says, "I will use the light foot technique to catch them." Hearing this, Yamong attacks him, and a huge explosion occurs. Yamong begins to worry, fearing for the safety of his family. With that, he needs to act quickly to recover from the caterpillar's blows. Surprisingly, Yamong blocks his sword with his hands. "After losing my older brother," he says, "I destroyed all those who accepted his death with their own hands. So if you killed a rabbit, everyone will bark, but I created them all just because I wanted to." He adds that this time, he won't be content with just destroying the Tang family. He will eliminate all the factions in the central PLS to eradicate future threats. At the Tang family mansion, Mother is enjoying her tea, but she can't help but worry about Yamong. Suddenly, the overseer rushes in, panting, and says that they are under attack. Mother is immediately alerted. The overseer explains that the Black Death Alliance has invaded the Tang family, and that they are trying to delay them as much as possible. Hearing this, Mother worries about Yamong, but knows that she must deal with the invaders first. In the main hall of the Alliance, Yamong is delivering multiple rapid blows to the lizard. Yamong, in disbelief, realizes that the blows are lethal and that he is using a powerful sword. When he delivers a very strong blow, the impact is tremendous, so great that it splits the building in half. The caterpillar is injured, realizing that his brother was outmatched from the beginning. Yamong's technique is superior to the sword technique he taught him. Furthermore, due to his unfathomable internal energy, Yamong can deliver continuous blows without slowing down. Yamong watches in surprise, realizing that the lizard blocks all of his blows. Yamong thinks about moving so fast that his eyes can't follow. But when he tries, the lizard easily blocks his attacks with the palms of his hands. Yamong then changes his grip and begins to deliver even faster and more lethal blows. With each attack, the pressure increases, pushing the lizard back. One of the blows finally hits him, and he realizes that he was unable to block all of the attacks. Something strange happens in Yamong's technique. His sword seems to follow a perfectly calculated path, as if it were optimized to defeat the opponent. Surprised, he realizes that the caterpillar must have already analyzed the movement of his sword. It approaches and compliments him, saying that it is impressive that Yamong can perform such an advanced technique, especially at his age. The caterpillar suggests that the secret may lie in how Yamong faces it while attacking. Yamong then pushes the caterpillar with his sword, creating distance in the air. The caterpillar lands with a powerful kick, sending Yamong flying backwards. But he stabs his sword into the ground, slowing down the momentum and avoiding serious damage. Using his feet, he quickly gets up, but is surprised to see that the caterpillar doesn't give him time to react, advancing directly towards him. In a fierce clash, Yamong attacks with his sword, and the caterpillar responds with a palm strike. When their attacks collide, a wave of energy destroys the room, leaving the floor in ruins. They continue exchanging blows with such impressive speed that we can only see the reflections of their movements. Yamong begins to pressure the caterpillar, but soon realizes that it is smiling. This irritates him, and he intensifies the attack. But the caterpillar, amused, responds with an even stronger blow. The fight continues with absurd intensity, transforming them into beams of light that destroy everything around them. They are so evenly matched that at the end of a confrontation, both are pushed back at the same time. The roof of the mansion cracks in half, and the moonlight illuminates the arena, as the two continue to stare at each other, ready for the next round. The caterpillar, impressed by Yamong's resistance and skill, admits that she never imagined that the fight would be so even. She recognizes that he can be considered a master of the sword, something she did not think possible. Although she thought she had reached the pinnacle of martial arts, now she needs to rethink everything, because Yamong is capable of using her as a springboard to evolve even further. Despite the caterpillar's relentless pressure, Yamanji stands firm, responding to all of her attacks while studying her movements carefully. The caterpillar, on the other hand, is having fun, but knows that the longer the fight goes on, the more it could hurt her. So, she decides that she needs to end the fight. She fights quickly. Yamong tries to use the poisonous technique Azurite, but still can't fully master it. His sword is pushing its limits, and he wonders how it can still hold up. The caterpillar closes the distance between them, grabs his face, and scolds him for being arrogant, looking away while using the Black Death Paw technique. Yamong is seriously injured and spits blood, but manages to block the following attacks by placing his sword between them. With a determined look, Yamong realizes that if he doesn't get more serious, he might not survive this fight. Before he can react, the caterpillar uses a camouflage coat to escape an attack from behind, and, from inside the coat, reveals that he has had an eye-opening experience recently. Points at Yamong, making him nervous, and uses a devastating technique called Subjugator of the Divine Righteous, copied from the legendary monkey of Generation Z. The arena remains silent for a second, until a massive explosion destroys everything around. The caterpillar declares that no one will be able to resist his divine martial art, which amplifies his true energy. But upon realizing that his energy is disappearing, he begins to lose his composure. The two exchange blows so powerful that they create gigantic cracks, swallowing the energy in an instant and causing a shockwave that fills the entire arena. Yamong, seizing the opportunity, delivers a simple but extremely powerful blow that makes the caterpillar retreat. Injured and unable to understand how he managed to perform such a technique, Yamong laughs to himself, for, on the verge of death, he finally managed to release a part of his original sword technique. The caterpillar is still stunned by what happened when Yamong tells her that he intended to use her as a stepping stone to reach a higher level, but that this will not happen as she will die there. Yamong's last blow was so strong that it split several mountains in half. As he holds his sword, he reflects that, although he thought of this blow in a moment of desperation, it was a success. He now believes that by achieving mastery in his skills, he will be able to manipulate the energy of his true sword technique and change the very nature of things. If Yamong can transform the iron essence within the force into poison, he will be able to unleash a portion of his true sword technique. Since his body has the ability to absorb any type of poison, this ability is crucial for the future, so pay attention to it. Thanks to this technique, he can use his ability without worrying about his blood vessels deteriorating. While discussing this, Yamong is already overpowering Lizard. The latter, frustrated and with clenched teeth, asks Yamong if he really believes he is going to die. Yamong notices something different in the air and becomes more cautious. Lizard, angry, sits on the ground and releases a tremendous energy, so powerful that it destroys the ground around it, causing Yamong to lose his balance. Yamong's face fills with surprise and pain. Lizard, with a threatening tone, asks, "How dare you stand before me while your energy radiates?" After destroying the ground, Lizard leaps into the sky, releasing dark energy from his hands and launching powerful dark blows towards Yamong. And Mang dodges, performing several attacks with his sword, and gradually approaches Lizard. When he finally gets close, Lizard performs a treacherous move. The destroyed arena creates a cloud of debris that blocks Yamong's vision. Overwhelmed by the debris and intense energy, Yamong realizes that he cannot get closer. Each time the dust dissipates, Lizard advances with dark energy and a sword-like ability. Yamong manages to block the first blow with his sword, but the impact is so strong that it takes all his effort to maintain his balance. The blow launches him into the air, but he lands on his feet, with no time to rest, as Lizard, with deadly intent, advances, preparing a fatal blow. Lizard launches a powerful attack, and Yamong, sensing the imminent danger, knows that if he does not counterattack, he will lose his life. They exchange blows, and the scene goes dark with huge explosions caused by the impact of the attacks. Yamong manages to block Lizard's final blow, who tries to crush his palm against him. Lizard, tired, mocks Yamong, saying that he will die today and that the Tang family will perish. However, Yamong, unfazed, laughs, surprising Lizard, who stares at him in bewilderment. Yamong responds, saying that Lizard is underestimating the Tang family, as they are not weak. Young Lord Yamong has trained everyone rigorously, and now the factions are on equal footing. Mother, with a serious look, launches her poisonous blades, and Yamong adds that he is not the only one with masters from the Fire Kingdom. The poison needles cut through their targets like butter, and with fierce determination, she orders everyone to fight to the end, until the young lord returns. Motivated by their leader's words, the allies advance towards the enemy with the intention of killing. Meanwhile, Yamong, already strengthened by the accumulated poison, declares that the Tang family will not fall today, but it will be anyone who perishes. He absorbs the pain and unleashes a sword strike so strong that it manages to move Lizard's palm, immobilizing him for a moment. The shock is evident in Lizard's eyes, as Yamong advances towards him. Now with a sword radiating energy, he approaches to deliver a fatal blow. Lizard, sensing the danger, goes berserk and barely manages to block the attack with his arm. He accuses Yamong of being responsible for his brother's death and dismisses his daughter's death as something related to the evil sect. However, hypocrisy has its limits. He should have chosen better subordinates. In no way did Yamong have the right to act like a hero here. Lizard, with his false sense of justice, furiously advances on Yamong, delivering a blow so strong that it throws him to the other side of the arena, causing a large explosion and making Yamong spit blood. Snake appears, encouraging Yamong to compose himself and focus on the fight, as he does not respond. Snake gives him concentrated poison, thinking that if Yamong dies, his own spirit bound to him will also perish. With the increase in energy, Yamong awakens. In the sky, Lizard prepares to finish the fight, but Yamong stands up, determined to face him again. Something serious happens, and Yamong is shocked, while all the serpents become nervous. Lizard reveals that he realized that Yamong's sword technique can weaken the righteous subjugation divine art. Lizard then unleashes an attack so strong that it makes Yamong realize he is in serious trouble. Meanwhile, the Alliance forces continue to be decimated, with Mother flying through the sky and eliminating the strongest enemies. The situation is getting more and more difficult. Even with half of the Tang family's warriors sent to support the joint sect, the enemies are clearly superior in number, being more than double. To make matters worse, a man is cutting down members of the Tang family, and Mom believes he is on her same level or even higher, since he is one of the 6 great masters of the evil path. She realizes that she needs to enter the battles to protect her warriors and prevent more injuries. Suddenly, something catches her attention, making even the bald Barbie stop dancing. They witness 2 brilliant blows in the sky. As if a star were falling to earth, Mom is filled with fear, because the resurrection seems to come from where Yamong is battling the leader of the Alliance. However, she cannot understand if that is really a battle between humans, because even waves begin to form in the sky. She prays for Yamong to stay safe. Yamong is shocked and furious. The blow used by the lizard was the blow of the Sword of Annihilation, a technique on the same level as hers. Although the lizard is not human and his body resists the weakening effect of the sword, Yamong reflects that the lizard managed to recreate his technique in the middle of the battle. As he flew through the sky ready to destroy everything, The lizard, excited by the fight, explains that he gets excited when fighting strong opponents and that he was able to understand Yamong's technique. Through his sword, he says that regardless of martial arts or new techniques, none of that matters if everyone he loves dies. The lizard is completely mad, trying to subdue a dragon. Yamanga is both delighted and energized, while the lizard declares that he will use his powers to kill everyone and become the new law of the world. The villain, now thinking himself unbeatable, announces that he will be the new ruler, but his arrogance will lead him to ruin. He will not survive the next chapter. The scene becomes more tense as the battle intensifies. The sky lights up like the sun, creating a star with the impact of 2 sword strikes. The destruction caused by this fight is devastating. The lizard has managed to overwhelm Yamong and now has the upper hand. Yamong, pushed back, barely manages to maintain his position as his sword begins to break in the lizard's hands, which he holds tightly. Suddenly, Yamong loses control and is thrown against a mountain, creating a huge hole with the impact. Although injured, Yamong is still not prepared for what comes next. The lizard uses a divine technique, the dragon's breath, to subdue his opponent. Yamong, confused, thinks that the lizard is already a dragon, but the truth is that it is more like a mountain goat. The lizard's breath hits the mountain with immense force, splitting it in half. Yamong, startled, realizes that the lizard is no longer on the same level. If he had taken even a second longer, he would have lost his life. He bites his teeth and tries to quickly recover, since the lizard's breath almost threw him off balance. As the lizard disappears, Snake appears, telling Yamong to look up at the sky. When Yumanji looks up, he can't believe his eyes. The lizard's arrogance makes him fly up into the sky. Yamong prepares to face it with his sword, which is already in very poor condition.
The lizard, however, manifests 2 black snakes in its palm and announces that this is its poisonous martial art, the Black Palm Technique.
He reveals that this technique was left by his brother, but was originally a primitive martial art, something he dares to call third-rate. Yamong, not hesitating to insult the lizard's brother, replies that the technique is worthless, since it was created by a wretch from an evil sect who never learned a true martial art. He believes that if he were not defeated, the lizard would end the Klantang one day. The black snakes, now flying through the clouds, advance towards Yamong. The lizard proudly explains that he has modified and perfected the technique over and over again, making it worthy of its name. The next instant, the snakes cut through the sky and a shadowy figure descends. Yamong is shocked, not knowing what is happening. The snakes now dominate the entire area and head straight for him. Trapped in the mountain, and Mang realize that they have just encountered an opponent who has transcended human limits. The lizard, with his final technique, tells Yamong that this is the Black Snake Palin, his last technique. Yamong was in trouble, feeling sweat dripping as he faced Lizard, who was anxiously waiting to see how long he could last. Snake warned him if Yamong received the attack directly, he would be torn apart. The best way out would be to flee, but Yamong surprised him. He ordered Snake to gather his poisonous energy. Snake hesitated, shocked. "Have you gone crazy? Do you really want to take this blow head-on?" Yamong firmly explained. If the attack hit the ground, it could devastate the entire Sichuan and kill thousands of people. There was no choice. He needed to stop the attack. Told Snake that he had a plan and only needed the poisonous energy. Even though he was suspicious, Snake transferred his energy, allowing Yamong to access a powerful technique from his past life. If the snake flies away with my technique, I can use my true power, Yamong thought. He knew he would need something stronger than simple annihilation. With a single strike, he intended to destroy the core and defeat Lizard once and for all. But there were doubts. Would his body hold out? And his sword, which was already on the verge of breaking. As the snakes advanced, Yamong leapt into the air, preparing. Technique, inspired by the sight of the red sun against the blue sky. With impeccable precision, he delivered a devastating blow, a perfect piercing martial art. At this moment, the story jumps into the past. A boy, malnourished and desperate, was caught stealing raw rice. He trembled when confronted, but Old C kindly said that he did not need to steal and could eat as much as he wanted. It was a stark contrast. As the old man reached out, Lizard, who was also present, wanted to kill the boy, calling him a third-rate loser. The old man asked the boy's name. Fast forward to the present, and we see Lizard remembering that moment. He had no name until the old man took him in, teaching him the Black Snake Fist, a technique he despised. Despite this, when the old man died, Lizard took it upon himself to protect his, swearing revenge for his death. Now, however, his desire for revenge had led him to this brutal confrontation with Yamang. Back in the battle, Yamong invoked his Sunset Sky technique and, with a precise strike, cut off half of Lizard's body. Even injured, Lizard was terrified. He realized that Yamong used a martial art so powerful that neither his body nor his sword could withstand it. When the sword finally broke, Yamong thanked the demonic blade for having served him until now. Without his sword, he pulled a dagger from his jacket. Let's settle this once and for all. He jumped, channeling his energy into a devastating attack. The force was so great that a tornado wrapped in blue energy appeared on the battlefield. As Yamong's rapid strikes struck Lizard, the latter could not understand how the small dagger broke through his defense. Sensing an opening in Lizard's rage, Yamanga took advantage and delivered the final blow, ending the fight in an instant. Time seemed to slow down as Yamong, with fierce determination, cut off the arm, which fell to the ground without hesitation. Even after losing both arms, the Lizard was crushed by Yamong's strength. The young strategist had used his broken sword to wear down the enemy's chi, breaking through his defense and preventing the fight from returning to the starting point. The Lizard, stubborn, declared that it had not fallen yet. But Yamong, glowing intense green, warned, "This is the price for messing with my family." With these words, he activated his poison force technique, causing a hole in the opponent's chest. The blow went through the Lizard's body, which was stunned and couldn't understand the technique it had just witnessed. Whatever Yamong had done was slowly rotting the Lizard's body. With a piercing gaze, Yamanga watched a snake, hidden behind him, asked in surprise, "Did you just create this technique during the fight?" Yamong explained that in the past, he had used the fire dragon's poison intent to create the flaming poison force. This time, he channeled his indomitable power to create the poison force and launch a devastating blow. With the battle finally over, Yamong sheathed his weapon and lamented the outcome, before turning to head towards the clan Tang. As Yamong walked away, the Lizard, wounded and determined, gritted his teeth. "I cannot die here, not before avenging my loved ones," he muttered to himself, filled with hatred. Now far away, Yamong reflected on the battle. Despite coming out of it in one piece, he knew that the techniques he had used could have left him incapacitated. He asked Snake for more poisonous energy, who replied irritably, "Poisonous energy doesn't just appear out of nowhere. I've already used everything I had." Yamong, making a trollish face, threatened, "Do you want to go back to the pot?" Snake, snorting, said that he needed more time to produce energy. But before they could continue arguing, Yamong noticed something coming from behind. He quickly turned around and blocked the Lizard's blow, which had transformed into a grotesque creature with dirty yellow teeth. Despite the transformation, Yamong noticed that the Lizard was not as strong as before. It had not yet completed its transformation into a dragon. While Yamong resisted the attack, Snake returned to his original form, preparing a poisonous breath. But Yamong interrupted him. Watching the Lizard carefully, he realized that his opponent had already reached his limit. The Lizard fell, muttering apologies to his loved ones for not being able to avenge them. With the enemy's death, Yamong relaxed, but his gaze became serious. He felt the weight of the battle and wondered if everything was really over. At that moment, a large object hit his head. Falling to the ground, he looked at the object with tears in his eyes and asked, "What is this?" Snake sighed, saying, "It's a dragon horn. It must have come from the Black Death Alliance. It's perfect for refining and supporting your poisonous strength." Yamong, still silent, finally spoke. "If we had met under different circumstances, perhaps we could have talked about martial arts." Snake, surprised, replied, "Are you feeling sorry for him now, after hearing that talk of revenge?" Yamong didn't answer. He knew that, despite everything, the battle had changed something inside him, and Mang felt guilty. He knew he had the power to save the child, but he chose not to act, thinking it was just another common fight. He knew it was a simple disagreement, but he trusted that the rabbit, master of the Fire Kingdom, would be able to disarm the problem and rescue the child easily. The Lizard also believed that, if something went wrong, the rabbit would solve everything. This complacency ended up costing the life of an innocent child with a serious expression. Snake looked at Yamong and said, "You're getting sentimental after crossing blades. You need to understand that the Black Death Alliance and the Tang family can never coexist." Yamong sighed deeply. "If I had been more careful with her flame art, maybe I could have done something." Snake shook his head and replied, "Think less about what you could have done. We are human, Yamong. Making mistakes is part of our nature. Even your ancestors made terrible mistakes, like judging the blue dragon as evil and killing it, only to discover that it was the benevolent dragon. That death nearly plunged the entire continent into chaos. After that, they hunted down the real evil dragon to correct their mistake." He gave a smirk and continued, "Reflecting on why you failed is fine, but dwelling on it won't change anything. What matters is who you will become after this." As they ran towards the Tang family, Yamong asked, Snaky, what was that previous form? If you had used it from the beginning, everything would have been much easier. Snake gave an irritated look. Are you seriously complaining about the help I gave you? I used all my poison energy to keep you alive. That's why I couldn't use that form before. Yamong realized the gravity of the situation and replied with a simple okay. Snake rolled his eyes. Ungrateful. At least thank me for the work I went through to save your life. Thank you, Yamong replied. For a moment, Snake was surprised, but he quickly covered it up. Then Yamong revealed, when I lost consciousness after the Alliance leader's attack, it was your poison energy that saved me from a fatal wound. I should have thanked you earlier, but I ended up interrogating you instead. So, thank you very much, Snake. Snake was embarrassed. He thought to himself that he found Yamong rigid and inflexible, since his former owner said that tools didn't need gratitude, only functionality. Trying to hide his emotion, he joked. Got sentimental after so much beating. Huh? Do you want to go back to the jar? Yamong smiled slightly. I was just being honest, Snaky. Switching to the Tang family, the scene was grim. Hundreds of bodies were scattered across the ground, and Momi was facing a bald Pokemon with her sword. The two were evenly matched, exchanging fierce blows. Momi tried to end the fight before other Grandmasters joined in, but the Pokemon took advantage of an opening and threw her against a house with a powerful blow. She was seriously injured. As it prepared to attack her again, the Pokemon declared, "You don't need to worry about reinforcements. Your formation masters are already being eliminated. As soon as we're done, our troops will arrive and our ace in the hole. The horn will take care of Yamong." He raised his sword, ready to kill her, but one of Momi's guards sacrificed himself, losing an arm to block the blow. Momi looked at him in surprise. "Why did you do that?" The guard replied with dignity. "I have served dishonorable leaders for too long. I can die now with a little honor." Before the bald Pokemon could attack him, he suddenly stopped. A crushing pressure filled the surroundings. He turned, breaking out in a cold sweat, and saw Yamong. His presence was overflowing with killing intent. Everyone present was shocked. The bald Pokemon stuttered. "What are you doing here? And the formation leader?" Yamong gritted his teeth and replied coldly. "Look around and see if you notice who's missing. I've eliminated everyone who tried to break the formation." The bald Pokemon hesitated, but Yamong continued. "I'd love to kill you now, but I'll give you a chance to get out of here. If you don't accept, you'll meet the same fate as the others." Yamong's poisonous energy seemed about to explode, and the bald Pokemon knew it couldn't face him. The battle wasn't over yet, but Yamong had brought new hope to the field. The bald Pokemon, astonished, asked what Yamong just said. "Are you joking, or what?" A moment earlier, Yamong had thrown 5 heads of people who belonged to the Fire Kingdom onto the ground. Baldi, the bald Pokemon, realizes that something has gone terribly wrong. He deduces that incredible surge of energy he felt earlier was caused by the fight between Yamong and the lizard, but he refuses to believe it. How could the lizard lose to someone like Yamong? Sweat drips down his forehead as Yamong coldly states, "The lizard was powerful, but he overcame it, and killed it with his own hands." Baldi's face darkens. Fear overcomes him. Finally, he accepts the truth. The lizard has been defeated. Trembling, Baldi drops his great sword and orders his subordinates to stop fighting. The confused warriors obey. With a heavy heart, he declares, "The lizard has fallen, he is dead." Shock takes hold of his men. Many cannot believe that the supreme master of the unorthodox path has been defeated by Julius, young master of the Tang family. Baldi, now calmer, explains, Yongyang survived the lizard's final technique and killed all 6 masters of the Fire Kingdom, except him. This proves that Yongyang is a match for the lizard. Hearing this, the members of the Black Death Alliance begin to tremble. Baldi orders them to retreat and drop their weapons. Most of them run away desperately. Yang, one of Yamong's allies, looks at Baldi and asks, "Aren't you going to run away too?" Baldi, full of anger and sadness, replies that he has nowhere else to go. Through gritted teeth, he explains that he has lost everything. His sworn brother, his sister, everyone he loved. Even though he knows he will lose, he feels it is his duty to fight. Yamong, impressed by Baldi's determination, accepts his challenge. He takes out his dagger and says calmly, "Come, attack with everything you have." Baldi, consumed by hatred and pain, advances with all his strength. But before he can do anything, Momi and the members of the Bongi Brigade destroy him in an instant. It was so fast that no one could understand what happened. With Baldi's death, the reign of the Sichuan rulers comes to an end. In a single day, an entire era was destroyed by the hands of a single person. A few hours later, in the main hall, Yamong calls a guard who had lost an arm during the battle. He asks how the guard is feeling. The one-armed man responds that, because he was trained to use both hands, The loss of his arm does not bother him so much. But Yamanj explains that he called him there for another reason. He heard that the guard lost his arm saving his mother, and wanted to thank him. The guard humbly replies that he only did his duty as a member of the clan Tang and did not expect recognition. But Yamong insists, "What you did was impressive. Despite our differences, merit must be rewarded." He then offers to teach the guard a special left-handed sword technique, assuring him that he will become even stronger than before. The guard, moved, accepts the offer, and Yamong promises to begin training as soon as he recovers. Meanwhile, Jili, exhausted after holding the formation that protected the clan, begins to cry, feeling like a burden. When Yamanj appears, Jili tries to disguise it, saying that he is happy with his return. But Yamong cuts through the formalities, praising him for his effort. Despite having complained, Digley held firm and gave the clan time to survive. Finally, Yamong says something unexpected. "I will support the Jiggly clan's recovery." Jiggly, surprised, thanks him, and Yamong takes the lead, declaring that he will take care of everything from then on. Digley is surprised to hear such warm words from Yamong. It seems that his personality has undergone a great transformation. Before leaving, Yamong firmly tells him, "The next time you think of abandoning us during a crisis, you will face the consequences." These words make Digley so nervous that his fake beard falls to the ground. Meanwhile, Yamong reflects to himself. He has already solved most of the problems, but there is still something crucial to be done. 2 days later, the team led by Yamong enters the mysterious fortress of the Black Death Alliance. The supervisor is astonished to discover that, beneath that structure, there was a vast hidden treasure. It was a wealth so vast that it could sustain the Tangling for decades. What is even more surprising is why the Black Death Alliance never expanded beyond Sichuan. Jean was never able to figure this out, but Yamong realized that the answer was simple. The lizard, the leader of the unorthodox sectors, was not seeking expansion. He already had everything he wanted in Sichuan. Yamong deduces that when recruiting followers, the lizard required treasure as collateral to teach his martial arts. However, he was not greedy. His fame was such that many sought his guidance, and the accumulated treasure was only the natural result of this. Yamong orders the overseer to take care of the place and transfer all the treasure to the main family. The overseer accepts the task, and Yamong decides to explore the depths of the fortress. There, he finds a library, but to his surprise, it is practically empty. After searching, he finds some books marked with the symbol of a serpent. Intrigued, he picks one of them up and discovers that it is a manual of the lizard's martial arts. As he reads it, Yamong realizes the lizard's merciless philosophy. Repay kindness double and sorrows tenfold. That is how he destroyed the Blue Fortress sect. He not only annihilated his enemies, but also studied their martial arts, uncovering their weaknesses to defeat them with even more cruelty and sarcasm. The manuals detail precise techniques to counter this martial art, and Yamong is impressed by the lizard's ability to simplify everything in so few books. He also discovers that the place where they are was originally the stronghold of the Blue Fortress sect. However, out of pure pride and arrogance, the supervisor destroyed everything, keeping only the martial arts that were worth something to him. And so, this arc comes to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe to follow the next part. Guys, if you want to suggest works or talk more with us, just join the community. The link is pinned in the comments. After the battle against the Black Death Alliance, the Tang family began to restore order in chaotic Sichuan. Meanwhile, in Chinu, a violent war broke out between the demonic cult, which tries to advance to the Central Plains, and the only resistance, the Klee sect. At the center of the confrontation is the feared immortal elder demon Gaghan, known as Scar, a master of the Fire Kingdom, famous for his ruthless techniques. He is the main force preventing the demonic cult from advancing. Despite this, the demonic cult has endless armies, capable of rivaling the 9 sects combined. And just look at this character. He looks like a version of All Might from My Hero Academia. Let's call him a frog. Due to the overwhelming amount of enemies, Klim began to lose ground, but everything changed with the arrival of Gen Z and the reinforcements of the Clan Tang. Also, notice the chubby guy over there. It looks like he's desperate to go to the bathroom. With the support of the masters of the Klin sect and the Fire Kingdom, the cult began to retreat temporarily. The union of the forces of Gen Z, Uncle and Scar began to turn the game in favor of the righteous factions. But, as everything was going too well, the unexpected happened. Of the Clan Tang betrayed the group. He poisoned those who were against his idea of betrayal. Even Snoop Dogg, when being poisoned, didn't fail to launch one last provocation. "You're worse than the weed I smoke." The traitor, nicknamed Shaggy Dog, justified his actions in a cynical way. saying that there is no room for two leaders in a group, while posing with his henchmen. In the Klantang, in one of the rooms, we hear the sound of hammering. It's Mini Chad, focused on transforming raw metal into a weapon. As he works, he remembers a recent meeting, and Mang invited him to become the official blacksmith of the Klantang. The proposal left him divided, but he took the opportunity to ask about the demon-slaying sword he had forged. Shocked to hear that the sword had broken. Upon hearing this, Mini Chad was moved. Despite being saddened by the destruction of his master's masterpiece, he felt proud, as the sword had fulfilled its purpose in eliminating the leader of the Black Death Alliance. Yamong, impressed by his skill, explained that a sword of that level could only be made by someone like him, and for that reason, he was there to recruit him personally. Later, Yamong showed Mini Chad the lizard horn, a rare material from a mythical beast. He explained that the best blacksmiths in and Tang had tried, unsuccessfully, to forge something with the horn, and Mang wanted to know if Mini Chad had a solution. After a moment of reflection, Mini Chad explained that the horn, because it contained spiritual energy, could not be forged using traditional methods. Another way to shape it would be through an unusual process, forging with cold instead of heat. He detailed that, in their world, everything follows the principles of Yin and Yamong. Just as metals with a Yin attribute are tempered with fire, a material like lizard horn, with strong Yin energy would respond to the opposite extreme, cold. Was surprised but decided to give it a try. He planned to use the cold energy he collected from Miso. Upon hearing her name, Mini Shadi remembered that he had not seen her since he returned, which made him decide to look for her after completing his task. As soon as he finishes his initial work, Yamong begins to channel cold energy into the horn. The intensity of the energy is so great that half the room freezes instantly, leaving the mini tea party with their mouths open, unable to believe what they see. Snake, suddenly appearing, comments to Yamong that there seems to be some reaction in the object. After freezing the horn completely, Yamong instructs Mini Chad to hit it with a hammer, warning him not to touch it with his bare hands. Mini Chad, determined, takes the hammer and delivers a sure blow. To his surprise, the horn begins to deform, becoming visibly dented. Dissatisfied, and says that the rest of the work will be Mini Shad's responsibility. Observing the object, Mini Shad comments that the horn is too small to be turned into a sword, but ideal for creating a dagger, and for him, the size of the blade has never been the most important thing. In the present, as he hammers the horn with dedication, Mini Chad reflects on the purpose already fulfilled by the demon-slaying sword. Now, he is determined to forge a new blade, one worthy of taking the place of the previous one. His eyes shine with determination as each blow echoes through the room. Meanwhile, the narrative shifts to Shinji. There, Frog enjoys a drink and, in the midst of his satisfaction, comments to White Herd that she never ceases to amaze him. Something he considers more than enough. Laughing, he teases by saying that even Manu, an unexpected character, has found a partner while others lead pathetic lives. White Turd, visibly irritated, counters the comparison, reminding him that the other woman destroyed both her lord and her country. She firmly states that she is completely devoted to Frog and the divine cult, body and soul. Frog, realizing his mistake, admits his mistake and changes the subject, saying that there is something important she needs to do for him. Her eyes widen at this. Frog explains that the cult is at war with Conan, facing challenges in advancing towards the Central Plains. Formidable forces led by Scarred Face, a master of the Fire Kingdom, are making their advance difficult, especially since Tell has allied with them. Frog goes on to say that in the midst of all this, a shaggy, ugly dog from Klantang contacted the cult, specifically asking for White Turd's help. She is surprised, but Frog praises her medical skills, reminding her that her fame has already reached Sichuan. He mentions that she recently cured the son of the richest merchant in the region of an incurable disease in a single day, earning his unconditional support for the cult. White Turd smiles at the compliment, while Frog says that ignoring his potential would be a waste. He reveals that, although the Tang clan needs the cult's help, this dog underestimates the true danger, which is not the clan, but Frog himself. She smiles mischievously and says that if it is the cult leaders she will do whatever is necessary. She then asks who will need to be treated. Frog explains that it will be the paralyzed arm of the grandson of one of the elders, although she knows that, even cured, the boy will still be weak and vulnerable. White Third approaches Frog and asks what the cult will gain in return. Frog's answer surprises her. The 10 poisons of the Tang family, lethal substances capable of killing even masters of the Fire Kingdom. Frog, however, makes it clear that her intention is not just the poison. His true plan is to use them to eliminate the 2 Fire Kingdom masters, who block the path to the Central Plains. With a dark smile, he declares that by killing them, the cult will have safe passage to achieve their goals. In the meantime, and Mangrove prepare to act. What's next? Stay tuned for the next chapter. And if you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.